What up guys, GangstaPranksta back with a brand new video, and today we are here with a special one. We're here with a bit of a throwback video. We are here with the how I would book Wrestlemania 40. I used to do quite a bit of these type of videos. I usually reserve these type of videos for like the bigger shows. You know, I've done them for Wrestlemania, I've done them for TNA Bound for Glory, I've done them actually as recently as last year. I did it for AEW All Out and All In, and I actually have not done one of these for WWE in quite some time. I actually had to go back and look when the last time I did one is, and the last time I did one was how I would book Wrestlemania 31, which is kind of insane. But we'll talk about WWE and, you know, the changes that they've made from then till now, because you gotta admit they are on a hell of a hot streak, and it's really, really cool to see. But in this video, I am going to do a couple different things. I'm going to fantasy book WrestleMania 40. Probably going to give my predictions and, probably touch on, some things that are going on in the wrestling world. For the majority of the video, I would say it's probably going to be WWE-centric, but at certain points, I'll probably touch on, like, AEW and potentially other companies. But first off, before we even get into this, let's just talk about WWE as a whole. So like I mentioned, they are on a bit of a hot streak. And if we go back to when I did one of these last, which was WrestleMania 31, I will say that WWE, for a very, very long time, has been on a bit of a cold streak. Their product for, God, I would say since like 2010, maybe roughly around there, that the product was absolutely dog shit. Like, it was just kind of unbearable to watch. And it's nice to see them turn things around. I would say for the past year and a half, maybe going on 2 years, they have really, really picked up a lot of momentum. And there's a lot of things that can be attributed to that. I think the biggest one is definitely Triple H taking over WWE and Vince kind of stepping aside / being pushed out due to the horrendous allegations. We won't get into that, but, that's kind of part of all the changes that have been made to WWE in the past few years. And the product just feels fresh. It feels different. It doesn't feel like a chore. I will admit, me personally, I still don't really watch wrestling on a regular basis, but I think now, more recently than ever before, I've been paying close attention to not only WWE, because it is WrestleMania season, so it's kind of exciting, and you kind of get scooped up in all the festivities of things. But yeah, even though I'm not watching on a consistent basis, I'm still reading the results, I'm still watching YouTube clips whenever they upload them, and I've enjoyed what I've seen. And it's really cool to see WWE kind of turn its product around from being like a product that nobody really cared about for a long time. I mean, I'll still say the idea of a 3-hour Raw does sound fucking brutal to me, but the Raws definitely seem better, in my opinion, like just based on me reading the results. Like, there was a good while, like when I used to do my weekly wrestling review video, that's another throwback for you guys if you've been around the channel for a while. I used to have this series where I would basically watch all the wrestling shows that would happen in a week and then kind of talk about them. I would watch Raw, I would watch NXT, SmackDown, TNA, Ring of Honor. At the time, AEW wasn't a thing, so those were mainly the 5 shows that I would watch. And then on top of that, pay-per-views if they were to occur. And I can recall vividly watching Raw and watching SmackDown and fucking hating my life. I thought the product was so boring. I felt like I was watching the same shows over and over and over again. You'd see the same matches over and over again. I remember I can't pinpoint the timeline, but there was like a Raw, a SmackDown, and then a Raw and a SmackDown 2 separate weeks, and they had the same match like 3 or 4 times on that show. And I was like kind of losing my mind, because I'm like, give me something fucking different. Like, holy shit, these 2 guys don't have to face each other multiple times a week for the past few weeks. Like, give me some fresh matchups. And I think that's something that they actively do in WWE at the moment, is they'll give you big matches on shows. They'll build up to big matches. I remember a couple months ago, they really hyped up a big IC title match between like Gunther and Chad Gable. And it's nice to see them use, I would say for the most part, the whole roster. Everyone kind of gets an opportunity to shine. I would say something with Vince is that when he was in charge, there's definitely guys that you would never, ever see. And there's still a couple guys, you know, a guy like Apollo Crews doesn't appear as often as, you know, maybe some people would like. But I would say with Triple H in charge, there's a higher chance of him, you know, being involved in the show, or maybe even being involved in a storyline. So it's really cool to see WWE kind of turn things around. You know, I watch these post-show press conferences that they do after the pay-per-views, and it seems like every time they do one, it's like, this is the biggest show, we had the biggest audience, the most people watching online, sponsorship, money coming in. You know, they're doing quite well. I mean, they were doing well under years of Vince. They were still making a shit ton of money, but now they're making even more money. And now you have a good product to kind of justify the success that it's doing. And just a little side note before we do kind of delve into things, I do want a little side note here, because something that I see online that really fucking annoys me about wrestling fans is the kind of tribalism that goes on, where, oh my god, AEW, their ratings have kind of declined, their venues, they're not selling as many tickets, look at the buildings, they're empty, WWE is a superior show, or even vice versa, hey, WWE sucks, AEW is the better product, it's got the better wrestlers, better wrestling matches, blah 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 blah. Let's just nip all that shit in the butt. I think people take for granted how good wrestling is right now, and that you have a lot of alternatives. Yes, for a long time, WWE absolutely was horrendous, and it was the only show in town. But now, we've got other alternatives. You know, you don't like WWE? You can watch AEW. You don't like AEW? You can watch TNA. You don't like TNA? You can watch Ring of Honor. You don't like Ring of Honor? You can watch MLW. If you don't like MLW, you can watch NWA. You don't like NWA? Mexico, Japan. There's so many different companies offering alternatives and offering good products. You just gotta find what you like, and it's probably out there. I would say AEW is in a bit of a decline. I wouldn't say it's anything to really worry about at the moment. If you look at it realistically, AEW was successful in the early part because it was an alternative to WWE. You had wrestling fans out there who wanted to watch a wrestling product, but WWE was just kind of dog shit. And then AEW came around, and it kind of was a breath of fresh air. Now, fast forward a couple years, the landscape in wrestling has changed. Now WWE is a hotter product. I would say they've kind of regained some of the audience that they lost, especially when AEW came around. You know, you got fans who watch both shows and enjoy both shows, but then you've got fans that, you know, there's only so much time in a week that you have. And there's only so much wrestling you can watch. Because if you really think about it, there's wrestling at least 6 days a week. Monday you got Raw, Tuesday you got NXT, Wednesday you got Dynamite, Thursday you got TNA and Ring of Honor, Friday you've got SmackDown, you got Rampage, Saturday you've got Collision, sometimes pay-per-views, and then Sunday sometimes you have pay-per-views as well. So it can be a lot to consume. And like I said, there's a lot of alternatives. If you don't like one product, you can like the other. But if you do like one product more than the other, or you like all the products, you don't have to shit on the products that you don't like. If you like AEW and you don't like WWE, that's fine. The wrestling ecosystem right now, it's thriving. There's a lot of talent out there, and it's spread across multiple different companies, and it's awesome to see. So, little side note, just in terms of the wrestling online community, you don't have to be a dickhead about things, like what you like, you don't have to put other things down. At the end of the day, you are watching men in their underwear fighting each other. It doesn't matter which company you're watching it in, it's just really a dumb concept when you really think about things, so just, you know, a kind of something to think about there. But let's get into the actual topic of this video. Let's talk about WrestleMania 40. I think we should probably start off with predictions. I don't know if it's better to start with my show or the actual show. We'll just talk about predictions. We'll talk about the show. Yeah, I think that's probably the best. So I'm on Wikipedia right now. They have both cards set up, night 1 and night 2. We'll just quickly talk about them, go through it, and then we'll go through what I put together. So for night 1, I'm not sure what is going to be the main event. I would assume it's probably the tag team match, the Bloodline versus Cody and Seth. Also, as I talk about these matches, I will talk about like the storylines and different what I like, what I don't like. So from bottom to top, we will start with whatever's listed here on Wikipedia. And the first match for night 1 is Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch for the women's world title. This one makes absolute sense to me. Like, these are the two hottest women physically and, in terms of the biggest superstars in the women's division, these are the biggest stars. And at WrestleMania, you want to have the biggest matches. And I think this is probably the biggest match. Not probably. This is the biggest match that you can have in the Raw women's division. Becky versus Rhea. This is definitely going to be a good match. These two women are, at the top of their game. But as for who's going to win, I can see Becky winning the title at WrestleMania. I like Rhea as champion. I think she's done a good job. She's held the title for like a year now, right? She won it at the last WrestleMania. I think it's time to kind of switch things up. She's held the title for a year. She's kind of beaten everybody. If she beats Becky, then where the fuck does she go from here? Where if she loses to Becky, then they can have a bit of a feud, and you can build upon that. So I think realistically, Becky will be winning it and becoming the new women's world champion. I think they'll definitely be continuing the feud for the next couple months. But at WrestleMania, I'm going to go with Becky Lynch being the new women's champion. Next, we got a 6-pack tag team ladder match, which sounds like an absolute clusterfuck. I know there's going to be a lot of cool spots. You got a lot of guys in this match that do crazy shit. But a fucking ladder match with 12 people sounds like a nightmare. So it's going to be the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest defending their undisputed WWE Tag Team titles against DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, Awesome Truth, Miz and R-Truth, The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, A-Town Down Under, which is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and the last team, which is the New Cash Republic, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Like I said, this will be a crazy match. You've got guys that are going to do a lot of crazy stuff. You got Johnny Gargano. I can see him doing some crazy stuff. Balor usually does some crazy stuff in ladder matches. I still remember that one move he took from Money in the Bank. I believe it was Andrade, gave him a sunset powerbomb off a ladder onto another ladder, and the bump that he took was just fucking brutal. Miz and R-Truth, I don't really see them doing anything too crazy. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, these are guys that are quite new. For most of them, this is like their first WrestleMania, so they're going to want to do some crazy shit. They're going to really want to, make a name for themselves, because you got to think of it like, this could be my last WrestleMania. Now, honestly, there are probably a bunch of WrestleManias in their future, but they call WrestleMania the Night of the Immortals. And shit that happens at WrestleMania, they always include in those promo packages that they do throughout the year, so I can definitely see a lot of these guys showing out and doing some crazy stuff. Hopefully, all safely. I don't want anyone to do something super crazy where they're going to risk an injury, but they're definitely going to do some crazy stuff. But as far as who's going to win, I think we're going to get new tag team champions. I think the Judgment Day has held it for a long time, and it might be time to change it up, but I can also see them retaining. And part of, I don't know, there's two scenarios I see coming out of this match. Scenario one, Judgment Day retains and then goes on to feud with one of these teams, who we'll talk about in a second. Or scenario two, we get new tag team champions, and that happens to be Awesome Truth. I think out of all the teams here, they're clearly the favorite. This seems like the perfect stage to have, R-Truth, who I've really enjoyed his stuff that he's done with the Judgment Day, Tom and Nick Mysterio, Live, Laugh, Love, Judgment Day, like all that shit's been really, really funny, and I'm glad R-Truth has had a spot on the show, because I do like comedy in my wrestling, and he's probably the best guy out there right now doing comedy stuff. I think it'd be an awesome moment. But if they don't win the titles here, back to scenario one, I can see Judgment Day retaining and then eventually losing it to Miz and R-Truth. But with it being WrestleMania, I think you're going to want to send the fans home happy. I think we're going to get new tag team champions. I think it's going to be Awesome Truth. Next match, we got a tag team match. This was one that was kind of just announced on this past SmackDown. And it's going to be the team of Rey Mysterio and Andrade teaming up to take on Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. I'm going to be honest, I really thought they were going to build up to a big singles match between Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio, the new luchador versus the old luchador, but they just ended up having that match on SmackDown, and then of course Dominic got involved, and this is what we got out of it. But it just seems pretty random in my opinion. Like, I get they want to put Dominic on the card. He's had a great year. You want to reward him by putting him on the biggest show of the year. Makes sense. But kind of ham-fisting him into this match, I'm not crazy about. I think I'd rather just have the big one-on-one match, Mysterio and Escobar going at it. And then adding Andrade in here was fucking random, because then you got Carlito and like Dragon Lee, who've been associating with Rey Mysterio. You would think they would be the tag team partner. And obviously with that, they're potentially setting up Rey Mysterio's next feud or whatever. I'm sure the match is going to be good, but I don't know. I don't know if this is the WrestleMania match to have, in my opinion. In terms of a winner, I think you gotta go. I mean, if they're gonna continue the feud, I would say you got Santos Escobar and Dominic winning, and then you can have Carlito be like, hey, why didn't you pick me for the tag team match? If we were in the tag team match, we would have won. You know, I'm better than Andrade. Then you can have a little feud between Andrade and Carlito, while Santos and Rey feud, and then you can have Carlito and Rey feud, something along those lines. This is one of those matches I can just see them sending the crowd home happy and having Rey win, but I'm going to go with Santos and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. I think they're going to pick up the victory here. Next, we got brother versus brother, Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso in a one-on-one match, brother versus brother. Actually, I saw something about this match that I thought was pretty interesting. There's only been 3 brother matches at WrestleMania, like actual blood brother, not like a Kane and Undertaker type situation or Edge and Christian, but brother versus brother, like they've had it for the past 10 years or something like that. It was Owen and Brett at one WrestleMania, and then like 10 years after, it was Jeff and Matt, and then 10 years later after that, it's Jay and Jimmy, which is kind of really cool. I don't know the exact timeline, but it was something around that. I'm actually pretty excited for this match. I'm going to be honest, I had my hesitations when they decided to split up the Usos and put one on SmackDown, one on Raw. I'm like, oh my god, you're setting them up for failure. Like with Jimmy, not so much because he's still associated with Roman and can do bloodline stuff, but putting Jey Uso on his own on Raw, I don't know if I was a hater. I was just like, I don't see him kind of succeeding. I think he's just kind of, you know, he's just going to be a guy that kind of loses a lot. And boy, was I fucking wrong, and I will eat my words. I was absolutely wrong. Jay has really come into his own on Raw. He's been killing it. The crowd loves him. He gets a huge ovation every time he's there. Puts on good matches. And I think he's actually like a really good babyface in my opinion. And with Jimmy, he's been like the kind of, he's been a funny heel. I've really enjoyed watching him on SmackDown being a goof. My favorite is at the Royal Rumble when he's like, oh, let's team up, and then everyone ends up turning on him. And then, you know, the last one, Gunther chops him and he's like, fuck, all these people keep turning on me. How do I keep falling for this? It's funny. He's been awesome. And in my opinion, I think there's kind of a clear favorite here, and I think it's gotta be Jey Uso. Now, I can see Solo Sikoa getting involved because he does not have a match at WrestleMania, so I can kind of see them throwing him in here. I hope that's not the case. I hope they have like a clean one-on-one match. No funny business. Save all that bloodline shit for like Cody versus Roman on night 2. I think you gotta go Jey Uso for the big win here at WrestleMania. Next match, we've got a 6-woman tag team match. It is going to be the team of Damage Control, which is Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane, taking on the team of Bianca Belair, Naomi, and the newest member of the SmackDown roster, it is Jade Cargill. I'm going to be honest, I'm not the most excited for this match. I can definitely see it being a good match. You got a lot of awesome people in this match. Naomi, Bianca, Asuka, Kairi. I think Dakota's a bit of a weak link in my opinion. Jade a little bit too. She's good in short spurts. She's definitely going to excel in a situation like this, but she's still kind of rough around the edges in my opinion. But that's like, I haven't watched her since she was in AEW, so. In AEW, she was definitely a little rough around the edges. Maybe she's kind of polished up a little bit in WWE. I mean, she's fucking been training like this whole time, so I hope something has come of her doing all this training. But just based on my last perceived notion of her, a little rough around the edges. But yeah, as far as this match, I think the babyfaces are going to win. I can definitely see Bianca and Jade continuing to be a team, and then eventually, you know, becoming a feud and building up to a big singles match between the two. Not too much to say on this one. I'm going to go with the babyfaces to win here, Bianca, Naomi, and Jade. I think they pick up the victory here. Next match, for the IC title, we've got Gunther defending his IC title against Sami Zayn. This is another match, I gotta be honest, I'm not crazy about. I know they're gonna have a killer match. That is not something that I'm worried about. These two guys are awesome, and they will put on an absolute banger. But I feel like the outcome's kind of predictable. Like, I really do not see Gunther losing the IC title to anybody. Well, not anybody, but like specifically Sammy. I don't see him losing the title to Sammy. I see him just kind of stomping all over Sammy and moving on. I know a lot of people wanted Chad Gable to win and, you know, become the #1 contender and have this big one-on-one match rematch against Gunther. I think that would have been the better story in my opinion. I would say Gunther and Sammy is definitely the bigger match. But I would say in terms of people that are possibly set up to dethrone Gunther, I would say Chad Gable's probably like a top 3 person that is definitely in contention to dethrone Gunther. And I think you gotta give it to somebody that can actually benefit from beating Gunther. You know, he's now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion ever. And they constantly mention that, like, he's on a hell of a run. And, you know, you want whoever beats him to be special. And I would say Sammy's already special. He's already established. He's already done a lot of cool shit in his WWE career. It'll be a cool moment for him, but I feel like it'll be something that is kind of forgotten about in a couple weeks. Or if you give it to a guy like Chad Gable, constantly underrated. You know, he had his team with American Alpha. Was awesome. Unfortunately, Jason Jordan suffered a horrific injury, had to retire. Actually, I don't think it was a horrific injury. I just think his body was extremely beat up, and then it just kind of gave up. And then Chad has really kind of, you know, been kind of lost, especially when Vince was there. Fucking Shorty G. Holy shit, what a death gimmick. Has had some tag teams here and there. You know, used to be a tag team with Bobby Roode. They won the titles for a little bit. And I would say for the last little bit, him and Alpha Academy with Otis and now Tozawa, I really like what they've been doing. And then to have Chad constantly face that bigger, stronger, I wouldn't say faster, but bigger, stronger guy in Gunther, someone who can take a lot of punishment, constantly beating Gable. Gable starts to doubt himself, like, maybe I can't beat Gunther, maybe Gunther is the better person here. And then eventually, Chad has enough heart to eventually dethrone Gunther, and it would be a big moment. It's going to mean a lot if that does happen. And I would think that would definitely help Chad in his career and definitely would be a staple moment for him. But as far as Sammy here, it's going to be a good match. But other than that, I think the outcome is going to be predictable. Should Sammy win? I think absolutely fucking not. There's really no point in him winning the Intercontinental title. I think if he does win, I think it'd be a huge, huge mistake, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Gunther here. And last but not least, for night 1, we've got the big tag team match. We've got Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins taking on the Bloodline members, Roman Reigns, and the final boss, The Rock. I'm going to be honest, when this was kind of first announced, I was not, like, it was a big match and I was kind of excited for it, but I was just kind of like, okay, that's cool. And for the past, like, month, they've really kind of invested me in this match. Like, I'm in. The whole beginning of this, I thought was extremely stupid. Like, let's go back to Royal Rumble for a second. You have Cody win the Royal Rumble. That was allegedly the plan. And then also the plan was apparently to have him give up his spot against Roman at WrestleMania so he can't finish his story. We're going to mention finish his story quite a bit, especially when we talk about the Night 2 main event. But yeah, Cody stepping aside, having The Rock come in, setting up the big Rock and Roman match was just like, what the fuck? This was honestly reminiscent of when Batista came back in like 2014, I believe, where clearly the fans were behind Daniel Bryan. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win, wanted him to go to the WrestleMania, like win the Royal Rumble, go to WrestleMania, win the title there. Like the Yes movement was fucking huge. And then you had Batista come in, and then Vince was like, well, the bigger match is going to be Batista. No one gives a shit about Daniel Bryan. He's just a vanilla midget. No one cares. Oh, people are chanting yes, but fuck them. Fuck the fans. And the WrestleMania main event was actually going to be Batista versus Randy Orton. Actually, at WrestleMania 30, nonetheless, 10 years ago. And eventually, they had to listen to the crowd and be like, okay, I think we might be missing the boat here. I think we actually need to do something with Daniel Bryan. And then obviously they inserted him. Well, first off, the one-on-one match with him and Triple H, which I think is still a great match. And then him winning that match and then going to the triple threat and then winning the world title there. Great moment. Absolutely great moment. But that was one of those things where WWE really had to course correct. You know, that wasn't their original plan. And that, honestly, is kind of similar to this, where that one SmackDown, it was SmackDown, where Cody comes out and says, hey, Roman, you know, I'm going to step aside. I'm not going to face you. I'm not going to finish my story. I have someone who is going to face you, and it's someone you got a lot of history with, blah, 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 and then ends up being The Rock, and it's like, oh, shit, Rock is back. He's going to have this match with Roman, but we want to be excited about that, but, like, Cody Rhodes, like, what the fuck? That's our guy. We want him to finish his story, and he's going, what the fuck? Like, bro, that whole thing was such a fucking nightmare. An American nightmare. And then it was like, what the fuck? Cody and Seth are going to have a match at WrestleMania for the world title. They faced each other so many times before. 3 pay-per-views. Actually, I don't know if it was back-to-back-to-back, but Cody was 3-0 against Seth. The Hell in a Cell match, the WrestleMania match, and I don't remember what the third match is. So it's like, who the fuck gives a shit about seeing them for a 4th time? Cody's clearly the favorite here. But him winning that title, it's not fulfilling. And for a little bit, I thought this whole feud really shit on the world title and Seth Rollins. I wasn't really a fan of that, because it was like, Seth, you're a fucking nobody. Nobody wants your title. You're a dork. Get the fuck out of here. It's all about Roman and his title. And I was like, I don't know if that's the route to go in. I will say, Seth really did hold his own in a couple of these promo battles, and has kind of built up himself from like literally, he was fucking destroyed by everybody. And I will say he has regained a little bit of his spark that he lost, in my opinion. But yeah, and then Rock turning heel, because Cody was like, fuck your family or whatever, and then Rock got offended, and now Rock and Roman are a team. It was kind of shaky, but I think they did course correct here. I've really enjoyed all the Rock stuff. I love that they're acknowledging, like, he's part of the TKO boards, and, like, he is the boss, and it's really giving him a lot of heat. You know, people hate that, because he's part of the corporation. And I think Rock's been doing some of his best work. You know, I love the angle that they did on this past Raw, where they included some blood, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a fan of blood in wrestling. I think it adds a lot, especially when done correctly. I think that was one of those times where it was done correctly. It was so personal of a feud. There's been a lot of personal moments, you know, where Rock is like, Cody, there's a bit of a gap between you, your brother, and your sister. You know, some might say that you were a mistake. And then Rock bringing up Mama Rhodes and stuff. Like, it is getting to that tipping point of, like, it is a blood feud, and it was actually nice to see blood involved in the angle. It took this feud to the next level, in my opinion. So this match went from a match that, you know, I was kind of excited to see, and now it's like, I gotta see this match. It's gonna be fucking awesome. I cannot wait. I think out of all the matches on WrestleMania, both nights, I would say this is probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most. There's also a little side note to this, where there's a stipulation. If Rhodes and Rollins win, all members of the Bloodline will be barred from ringside during Rhodes' match against Roman Reigns on night 2. And if Seth and Cody lose, then the world title match on night 2 will be contested in a Bloodline rules match, which is basically the Bloodline gets to do whatever the fuck they want. Solo, Jimmy, Jay, well, not Jay, he's a babyface, but Solo, Jimmy, Rock, they can come and do whatever the fuck they want, and nothing can happen to them. For night 1, the main events, the winners should be Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. But not just Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I think you've got Cody Rhodes beating The Rock. I think that is the only outcome of this match. I think that's the right outcome, and the only outcome that should happen. I think anything else that happens, I'm going to be honest, I think is wrong, in my opinion. I think Cody needs to defeat The Rock, and pin him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and then, of course, get his match against Roman on night 2. But, hey, this is an easy setup, story-wise, for what can happen after, where Cody wins the match here, pins The Rock, night 2, pins Roman, maybe, we'll talk about that in a second, and then Roman can be, hey, Rock, you really let the Bloodline down quite a bit. You know, you let Cody Rhodes pin you at WrestleMania. You're supposed to be the final boss. and you lost to Cody Rhodes? I beat him last year. And then Rock is like, yeah, you beat him last year, but what about this year? You lost your title. That easily sets up a feud between Rock and Roman, most likely at SummerSlam, maybe even next year at WrestleMania, depending how long they want to kind of hold out. Also, you got to take into consideration the Rock schedule. Is he going to go back to Hollywood? I don't think he's got any movies on the horizon. I could be wrong. But at any moment, he can fucking go and film a movie for the next 6 months, which is probably going to be the case. So I'm assuming SummerSlam, big one-on-one match, Rock and Roman. But as far as WrestleMania, night 1, I think the main event, Cody Rhodes beating The Rock, securing night 2 being just a one-on-one match, no bloodline getting involved. And then we got night 2, and starting off night 2 is going to be for the world title. It is Seth Rollins defending his world title against Drew McIntyre. I'm going to be honest, this is another match where I could not give a shit when they announced that this was going to be happening. Now, obviously, the clear main event that they wanted to do was CM Punk Seth Rollins for the world title. But due to injuries, that can't happen. The next biggest match, I would say, is probably Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. And like I said at the beginning, I wasn't too excited for this match. But for the past few weeks, actually, I gotta say for the past few months, Drew McIntyre is doing some of his best work of his career. I love Drew McIntyre, the hater. I prayed for this, and it happened. He has been absolutely on fire. He's hater of the year. I love heel Drew McIntyre. He's awesome. He's such a fucking internet troll. I love that shirt with him, the screaming face with Punk grave. Like, that is fucking awesome. But I will say this world title match has kind of seemed like an afterthought because Seth is so tied up in the bloodline stuff with Cody. You know, I feel like the world title match has kind of suffered quite a bit. Now, I would say, I think it was this past Raw or the Raw before when they had that kind of three-way verbal spar between Drew, Seth, and Punk. That was pretty awesome. I gotta say, Drew, with the line of the promo, Punk, you say you're straight edge, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, but you seem to spend all your time in rehab. Absolute banger of a line. That one got me. It cracked up. I would say Punk had a good one too, where Drew was like, yeah, I'm the chosen one. And then Punk's like, yeah, you're the chosen. Who chose you? Say his name. And of course, that being Vince McMahon and them wanting to stay away from it. Funny moment. I really enjoyed that promo battle. In case you missed it, definitely go check that out. But I will say that this whole feud has kind of suffered a tad bit due to Seth in the other match. But this match has gone from a match I didn't really care to see to I want to see it, and I want to see Drew McIntyre win the World Heavyweight title. I think everything that they're doing is setting him up to lose, because they're like, oh yeah, Punk's going to do commentary. I think he's doing commentary. He's doing commentary as a special guest announcer or something like that. But basically, he's going to be at ringside involved in this match. And obviously, you can see some shenanigans coming into play. So I can definitely see Seth retaining, and then obviously that kind of continues the Drew and Punk feud for whenever Punk gets healthy. But I kind of want to see Drew win the title here. You know, another thing that he keeps mentioning is he won at WrestleMania, he won the world title or universal title, whatever title he won. But unfortunately, that was during the COVID era, and he didn't get to do it in front of a crowd. And I think if he's going to win a world title in front of a crowd, I think it's got to be this one. I would love to see Drew win and become the next World Heavyweight Champion. But I can really see Seth retaining. I think this is probably the most 50-50 match out of everything on the card. I think everything else has a pretty clear winner when it comes to things. Everything else is kind of set up and you can kind of see where they're going. This one, I have no idea. Because even before this, Seth was injured, and it was like, shit, he might not even make it to WrestleMania. So I'm not sure how bad his injury still is. Is he going to have to take time off? If he is, then obviously put the title on Drew. But if Seth is healthy, then I can see him continuing to be the world champion. But I would actually really love to see Drew win the world title here. Next match, we got the Pride, which is Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits taking on the Final Testament of Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain in a 6-man tag team Philadelphia street fight. I really don't know why you don't just call this an Extreme Rules match. You're in Philly, home of ECW. One of the inductees in your Hall of Fame is the owner and one of the faces of ECW, Paul Heyman. I just call it a fucking Extreme Rules match. Who gives a shit? Philadelphia street fight. Embrace the ECW there. You're gonna have fans in the crowd chanting ECW anyways, so just fucking embrace it. Call it an Extreme Rules match. But as far as this match, I gotta say I'm kind of excited for it. I haven't really kept up with the feud. I like the idea of the feud. I like Lashley. I think he's been pretty awesome for the past few years. Street Profits I like. Karrion Kross, I have a love-hate relationship with him. Like, I love his presentation, and I like him, but I feel like once he gets in the ring, it just kind of, it doesn't really click for me. Just something about it, I just feel like it's kind of missing. And then the Authors of Pain, I enjoyed their stuff that they did in NXT with like DIY and stuff and TM61. But I haven't really kept up with them for the past few years, so I can't really speak on them too much. But I think this should be a really fun match. I think they're going to brawl all over the crowd. I think they're going to do a lot of crazy stuff. I think we might see some crazy, like, ECW stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we see, like, tacks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a flaming table. I think that's probably not likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And then after the match, you can have, you know, you can have some ECW guys come out and beat up the Final Testament. I think Pride is going to win. I think they're the clear favorites here. Something I'd actually kind of like to see is something that I kind of just mentioned, where after the match some ECW guys come out, maybe get like Bubba, put somebody through a table or something like that. I would kind of like to see, you know, Final Testament work against some ECW guys, you know, have them come in for like a month or two, and then have them do some 6-man tag team matches. You know, you can have RVD come in. I know he's doing a lot of stuff with AEW, but he can come in and do some stuff here. You got Bully Ray you can come and bring in. You've got Tommy Dreamer, Rhino. You know, these are guys that work at TNA, but obviously TNA and WWE have a working relationship. You know, you can bring a couple of those guys in for a little bit. It doesn't have to be a long feud. Like I said, a month or two, maybe even a month and a half. Come in, work with the Final Testament a little bit, give them a couple wins, and then they can kind of go on and move on and do some other stuff. But that is something I would kind of like to see post-WrestleMania, in my opinion. I think that would be fun. Next match, we got a one-on-one match between LA Knight, and AJ Styles. I'm pretty excited for this match. LA Knight, as much as I like him on promos and when it comes to giving you a good match, you know, I think he's pretty good, but I don't think he's had that great match yet. And I think a match here with AJ Styles, I think that is going to be a banger of a match. AJ can kind of work with anybody. He is phenomenal. And I think a good match would honestly help LA Knight a little bit, just in kind of the fans' eyes, because, you know, people just view him as a mic guy, not really like a good match guy. And I would say to be a top guy in WWE, you gotta have both. You gotta be good on the mic, and you gotta be able to deliver good matches. And if I were to ask somebody, hey, what is the best LA Knight match that you've seen? I don't know if anybody would have an answer for me. And I think this would probably be it. And I gotta say, I'm actually looking forward to this match quite a bit. I'm a big AJ Styles fan, so whatever he's involved in, I'm kind of excited about. I like LA Knight. I really like his promos. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's like The Rock, he's like Austin, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a fuck? He's entertaining. He can give you good promos. He's funny. He's quick-witted. The people love him. Yeah, is his style similar to Rock and Austin? Yes, absolutely. They're clearly an inspiration for him. But he has kind of developed a lane for himself, so I'm happy to see that. And I would actually like to see him win here. I think he needs a big win. He's a guy that the fans have gotten behind him, but because he feuded with Roman, had some world title matches, had the match at Saudi Arabia, had the match at Royal Rumble, I feel like you kind of got to do something with him soon before the fans start to kind of abandon him and abandon hope, where they're like, yeah, this guy's our guy, but like they're not doing anything with him. So I actually do want to see him get a big win here at WrestleMania, and I want to see them do some stuff with him. I would like to see them continue the feud between AJ and LA Knight, you know, let them feud for another month or two. But I would like to see LA Knight be given more opportunities when it comes to the higher places on the card. So LA Knight, I'm going to go with him here. Next match, we got a three-way for the WWE United States Championship. It is Logan Paul. It's still kind of surreal that he's not only a WWE superstar, he's the fucking US champ. And this is his third WrestleMania. That's kind of crazy. He's appeared at more WrestleManias than some people that have been in the wrestling business for like 15, 20 years. It's insane. But yeah, he's got a big match here against Randy and Kevin Owens. I'm going to be honest, having Kevin Owens in here was kind of random. We're going to talk about this when it comes to how I would book WrestleMania. And a little spoiler alert, for my WrestleMania, I have Logan Paul and Randy in a one-on-one match for the US title. Logan and Owens, they already kind of had their feud. I don't really see him being needed here, in my opinion. I'm sure the match is going to be good, like I have no qualms about that, but I just feel like a bigger match would have been Randy and Logan one-on-one, in my opinion. But yeah, for the US title here, Logan Paul, I think he's going to retain. I think there's no reason to put the US title on Owens or Orton. I can actually see Orton and KO teaming up after WrestleMania. Like, they kind of seem to be buddy-buddy. And I think you got the perfect, like, team name, like Team RKO, where, you know, obviously Randy, his finisher is called RKO, but then his tag team partner, what are his initials? KO, got Team RKO. Randy, Kevin Owens, Randy, Kevin Orton, whatever you want to say. There's a team name in there somewhere. Our Team RKO might not be the best one. Something along those lines. I can see them teaming up after WrestleMania, to be honest. For this, I'm going to go Logan Paul retaining his United States Championship. Next, for the WWE Women's Championship, we got Io Sky defending her championship against former leader of Damage Control and former stablemate. We got Bayley. And I think there's only one outcome here, and that is to have Bayley beat Io and win at WrestleMania. This is a storyline that's been a very long time in the making. You know, Bayley is a babyface now. I think she won the Royal Rumble. I cannot remember at this moment. I believe she did win the Royal Rumble. So she's got a lot of momentum now. And I think it only makes sense to have her win the women's title here. And, you know, she can continue to feud with Damage Control and, you know, maybe even have like 8 women tag team matches where it's like you have Damage Control and then Bayley can team up with like Naomi, Jade, and Bianca. Do some fun tag team matches there, but to be honest, I see Bayley walking out the new women's champion. I think that's honestly the only result here. And last but not least, the main event of WrestleMania Night 2, and the WrestleMania main event of all WrestleManias, it is Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes 2. I wish they would kind of build that up more, like this is the second match between the two. The rematch, a year in the making, finisher story. I think there is only one outcome for this fucking match, and it is Cody Rhodes winning and finishing his story and beating Roman Reigns, the real kind of final boss. You know, Rock calls himself the final boss, but Roman's been the final boss for, 2-3 years now. And we've got our hero, Cody Rhodes. He's got the sword. He's ready to slay the beast. They've pretty much said he is going to win by saying, hey, you know, if Cody doesn't win here, he's never going to get another world title match. Now, they did this exact stipulation in AEW. Literally the first pay-per-view, the first not official AEW pay-per-view, but once they were doing weekly Dynamites, the first pay-per-view that they did, Full Gear, the main event was Cody Rhodes and Jericho for the AEW world title. He never gets a world title match ever again. And holy fucking shit, they actually did it. Cody lost and never ended up getting a world title match. Now, I will say there is a little bit of a bonus and positive to that, where he went in the TNT title division and really elevated that title. But I think the fact that Cody can never compete for the AEW world title really kind of hurt his AEW run, in my opinion. And I don't see them making the same mistake here, where Cody can never challenge for the world title. That would be the dumbest thing on earth. I don't think people want to see Roman as champ anymore. I think he's going to lose. Cody wins. Roman goes away for a little bit. And then obviously you build up to Roman and Rock whenever that's going to happen. But yeah, there's only one outcome to this match. It's Cody winning, finishing his story. He should have won last year. I'm a big advocate of that. I believe he should have won last year, because that one fucking shot of him in the ring looking like he's flabbergasted, that was how all the fans felt. Where it was like, dude, he was our guy. He was going to finish his story, and he didn't. He lost. And it was like, okay. And then, you know, Triple H talked about at the post-match press conference, where it was like, you know, his story continues. It doesn't finish here. You know, kind of teasing, hey, we're going to continue the story, but there's different chapters to it. We're almost at the end of the book. The story is almost over. And there is only one outcome to this match, and it is Cody Rhodes winning the Universal title and becoming the world champion. Now, will Bloodline get involved whether Cody wins night one? Yeah, I'm assuming so. I'm assuming there will be some shenanigans. I'm assuming The Rock will insert himself as a special guest referee, something along those lines. But yeah, Cody wins. Night one beats The Rock. Night two beats Roman, and then wins the Universal title. If they do not do that, something is wrong. I think if Vince was in charge, I feel like if Vince was in charge of this, we wouldn't even be getting this match. It would probably be Rock and Roman. Even though the people would be booing and shit, it would be like, yeah, fuck the fans. Rock and Roman, that's a huge match. My God, money match there. And granted, that is a big match, but under the right circumstances. Right now, the circumstances, Roman, Cody, one-on-one, finish your story. He walks out with the world title. If that doesn't happen, I honestly expect him to burn down the building. Honestly, I really expect a riot of some sort to occur. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because I think Triple H is smart and sees where things are headed. And that's one of those things. It's like, you see Cody win it. You see it. But there's that 99.9% chance, but there's still that 0.1% chance, that 0.01% chance. It's still there, and it kind of lingers in your mind of, maybe he loses. I don't think it will happen, but it's kind of hard to not think about it still being a possibility. But I'm going to go with my heart, my gut, my brain, and Cody walks out with the Universal title. So, pretty solid show, but I think I got a bit of a better show, in my opinion. So we are now done with the predictions, and we will move on to how I would book WrestleMania 40, Night 1, Night 2, and then we're also going to discuss some plans for post-Mania, stuff I would set up to happen after, in the coming months after WrestleMania. So, for me, for Night 1, let's start at WrestleMania hot. I would have a 4-way tag team match, and this is actually a match I want to talk about a little bit, because I went back and forth a lot on this match and what I actually wanted to do with it, but it is the match of Judgment Day defending their Raw World Tag Team titles in a 4-way against DIY, New Day, and Awesome Truth. So before we even get in the match, let's talk about that little caveat that I mentioned there. Judgment Day defending their Raw World Tag Team titles. This is something that I've kind of been thinking a lot about in terms of WWE, where should they split up the tag titles? Should we have a set of tag titles for each show, or should they keep the tag titles the way they are, the unified World Tag Team titles? What is the best course of action? And I really kind of debated on this. I'm like, I like the titles being unified. It makes them feel important, and I like what they've done with the tag titles. Last year, one of the main events for WrestleMania Night 1 was KO and Sami winning the unified tag team titles from the Uso, and it was a big match. And I feel like the tag team titles, since they've been unified, they've made the tag titles feel more important. But I also like the idea of having the tag titles in each brand, because honestly, if you look at the tag team division right now on each brand has a decent amount of tag teams. If you look at Raw, you got Judgment Day, Alpha Academy, Creed Brothers, DIY, Awesome Truth, Imperium, New Day, Indus Viking Raiders, even though one of them's injured. And then on SmackDown, you have more tag teams. You got the Authors of Pain, you got the Street Profits, A-Town Down Under, Legado del Fantasma, Pretty Deadly, New Catch Republic, Ashanti Adonis and Cedric Alexander, LWO, The Club, potentially Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. So you got a lot of good tag teams on each show, and then with the tag titles, they mainly appear on Raw, right? Very rarely do they make an appearance on SmackDown. And then if you really think about with SmackDown, the tag titles don't really appear. The World Champion barely appears. Logan Paul doesn't really appear as often. I think he's appearing a lot right now because it's WrestleMania, but post-WrestleMania, I can see him kind of disappearing for a little bit. So if you really think about that, the two big champions on SmackDown aren't really appearing, and then they have no tag titles to fight over, so SmackDown just kind of feels pretty empty. So at least if they had a set of tag titles on SmackDown, they can fight over those. So I really did debate between keeping them unified and separating them, and I ended up obviously going with the separation of the tag titles. And honestly, there's a really easy way to kind of get into this match. Obviously, you got the Judgment Day, World Tag Team Champions. They're cutting a promo one day, and then you have Awesome Truth come out and interrupt them, and R-Truth, pretty funny guy, says a lot of wrong stuff. You never know if he's coming or going, bringing a ladder into a Royal Rumble match, telling Paul Heyman he's going to throw him out of the Rumble when Paul Heyman's not even competing. When he was the 24/7 champion, calling himself the 24/7 European television. He mentioned some highway. And basically I would kind of use that scenario here where they would go back and forth on the mic and R-Truth would be like, yeah, well, we challenge you for the Raw Tag Team titles. And then Judgment Day would be like, what? You want the Raw Tag Team titles? You want to win both of these? And then he would just be like, nah, man, I love red. Yeah, just something goofy like that. And then they laugh at him and they're like, okay, you just want the Raw Tag Team titles? You know what? Truth, we will put them up against you. Now, I thought about doing a one-on-one match because that is the money match. You know, I'm going to be honest. My winner here is going to be Miz and R-Truth. I want them to have their big win. Mainly R-Truth. I want him to have his big moment, not only just against the Judgment Day, but in front of a big crowd. I know he doesn't seem like it, but he's like 50 plus, and he doesn't move or wrestle like he is an older guy. The man doesn't age. And obviously, he's never going to win a world title. I mean, never say never, but most likely never going to win a world title. But I like him in the spot that he's in now. He's in a spot that has longevity. Comedy always does well in wrestling. He does it better than anyone else. But I ended up making this a 4-way, and this will kind of lead into the SmackDown match. And with the SmackDown match, it's also going to be a 4-way for the tag titles. And I didn't want to have like a one-on-one match for the Raw Tag Team titles. You know, there's not really one good contender on the SmackDown team. I mean, at Elimination Chamber, you had Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate challenge for the titles, but no one really believed that they were going to win the tag team titles. So what I would do from SmackDown is I would have like qualifying matches, like we're going to take Team A, Team B, whoever wins goes to this match. So I'm kind of adopting that same idea into the Raw Tag Team title match. So you got DIY, New Day, and Awesome Truth. They would all win qualifying matches and end up in this match. And then backstage, you would have Adam Pearce. You know, he's in his locker room, maybe talking to somebody like, yeah, we have a big Raw Tag Team title match at WrestleMania. And then Nick Aldis would come in and be like, oh, you know, I noticed that just the Raw Tag Team titles are going to be on the line at WrestleMania. You know, what about the SmackDown Tag Team titles? And Nick Aldis would be like, yeah, I think it's only right. You know, how about night 1, we have the Raw Tag Team title match. And then night 2, we have the SmackDown Tag Team title match. And that would build both matches. And we'll talk more about the SmackDown one in night 2, because that is one of my matches. But yeah, as far as night 1, first match, Judgment Day, DIY, Awesome Truth, New Day, 4-way elimination match for the Raw Tag Team titles. You got to give it to Awesome Truth. They would become the new, first in a while, Raw Tag Team champions. And I think that would be a fun way to start the show. Just a lot of kind of chaos going on, and a fun way to start the show, you know, giving a big win to Awesome Truth. Next match on my WrestleMania Night 1 card, I've got Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso in a last brother standing match. Now, this is another match I kind of debated about. I definitely wanted to have this match on WrestleMania on my show, but I was kind of debating, do I keep it a one-on-one match or do I go with a stipulation? And for me, I would probably lean more into the stipulation. Like, I do like the idea of them having the one-on-one match where one of them wins and then, you know, eventually they would come back to the feud. But for me, because they're on different brands, I would keep them separate. So that's why I would have like a big kind of blow-off match at WrestleMania, because, you know, I don't know if I would kind of, I don't know if their paths would meet in the next few months. So I was like, you know what? Let's just have a big kind of blow-off match at WrestleMania. Last brother standing. And I think the only winner here, logically, is Jey Uso. No disrespect to Jimmy. I like Jimmy. But I think Jey is the man right now. Yeet, no yeet. Jey Uso would win this match. Next match is, honestly, a match I kind of expected them to do at WrestleMania, but they didn't end up doing it. And it's something that I think would work in my opinion. It's something that they've kind of been building between the two. One of the things I like that WWE is doing right now is having two figureheads for each brand. Nick Aldis for SmackDown, Adam Pearce for Raw, and I've liked how much interaction that they've had on the shows, and they're actually kind of, competing to sign different people, put on bigger matches, make it feel like a competition. It hasn't really felt like this since like Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long were the GMs of Raw and SmackDown. Kind of reminds me of the spirit of that between Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce. And for me, I would put together a 5-on-5 kind of Survivor Series style match where I'd take a Team Raw and Team SmackDown and have them in a 5-on-5 match. Now, I would do two of these. I would do a men's and a women's one. The men's one I'm going to put on, that's going to be the match that we talk about right now. And then the women's match we will save for night 2. So the next match that I'm going to be talking about is Team Raw versus Team SmackDown 5-on-5. Team Raw is going to consist of Sami Zayn, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, Andrade, and Chad Gable. And Team SmackDown is going to consist of Kevin Owens, Solo Sikoa, Dragon Lee, Sheamus, and Braun Breaker. You take 5 of the best people from each brand and you put them up against each other, and I think this would be a really, really fun match. To start off the match, I would definitely have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn started off for each of their respective teams, and then they kind of just like stare at each other for like a minute, and they're like, okay, last year, we won the tag team titles. This year, we're fighting against each other, I guess you could say they're the captains of each team. Kevin will be the captain of SmackDown. Sami will be the captain of Raw. And the captains go head-to-head and brawl it out. And so I really expected something like this because they have been doing the brand stuff. And usually at Wrestlemania, they like to kind of throw everyone on the card and, give everyone an opportunity, like a WrestleMania-type moment. And for the past few years, it's been the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale, where they just kind of shove everyone in there and everyone's on the card. But I think this would be the better way to do it, in my opinion. I would make it like a Survivor Series-type match because they're kind of really phasing that out of Survivor Series, where past few years Survivor Series has been more about war games and not so much the traditional 5-on-5 style, where I would kind of bring that back for this match. So 5-on-5 elimination, a lot of combustible elements here. I mentioned Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. You've got Ricochet and Dragon Lee, who kind of would match up well against each other. Just two guys that go at ridiculous speeds. Honestly, I really think this would be a lot of fun to watch. And me personally, I would give the victory to SmackDown. I would have a story to it as well. So again, it's 5-on-5. I would have SmackDown be at a heavy deficit early on, where Dragon Lee probably gets eliminated pretty early on. And then I'd probably do like Sheamus getting eliminated next after he's accidentally speared by Braun Breaker, and that will lead to something that we talk about later. And then it would be like Kevin Owens, Braun Breaker, and Solo Sikoa, and then they got to go up, 3-on-5 against the Raw team. I would have Kevin Owens eliminate somebody from the Raw team. I'd probably go Chad Gable in this situation. Either Chad Gable or Ricochet. That'd be one of the first two that I eliminate. And almost immediately after Kevin eliminates one of those guys, then Sami would eliminate Kevin, and then that would leave it being a 4-on-2, which would be like Sami, Ricochet, Shinsuke, and Andrade. So after Kevin gets eliminated, then it's down to Sami, Ricochet, Shinsuke, Andrade taking on Solo Sikoa and Braun Breaker. And I would have Braun and Solo Sikoa basically make the comeback and win the match for Team SmackDown. After the match would be over, they kind of get in each other's faces where they don't really like each other. I would actually also cause some dissension. I would have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale on like SmackDown and have all these guys in that match. I would actually have Braun Breaker win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale by last eliminating Solo Sikoa. So you start a little bit of tension between the two, and then they're the final two in the SmackDown vs. Raw match. And then after the match, it's like, are they going to come to blows? I would have the rest of the guys, the other members that were eliminated for Team SmackDown, Owens, Dragon Lee, and Sheamus, come out and kind of celebrate their big win at WrestleMania, but it would be like a big stare down between Braun Breaker and Solo Sikoa, and I would have commentary just be like, these two guys, these are like the future of WWE. We might even see them being future WrestleMania main eventers, possibly even against each other, and I would kind of hype this up as a match for potentially next year, a one-on-one match between Braun Breaker and Solo Sikoa. I would have them go the whole year feuding, but never touching each other, kind of like Sabu and Taz from ECW, where they interacted a bunch of different times, but they never touched each other until that one match that they had. I don't remember the pay-per-view, but they didn't touch each other for a year until they had the one match, and it made the match even more special, and that's something that I would do here, where they're kind of indirectly feuding with each other. Like, I would have Solo go do some stuff and Braun Breaker do some stuff, but they would always kind of come face to face with each other, but never come to blows. It was kind of like a silent respect for each other, where they don't like each other, but they know they're a worthy opponent if they were to ever have a match against each other. So yeah, I would tease a lot of tension between the two. So yeah, Team SmackDown taking the victory there. Next match I would do on my WrestleMania Night 1, I kind of mentioned it earlier, which would be Logan Paul defending his US title against Randy Orton. So when I was creating the show, I've talked about this before when I do my booking stuff. The first thing I do, I immediately make matches for all the titles. I think all the titles should always be defended at WrestleMania. So I wrote down Logan Paul versus question mark for the US title. I didn't have an opponent in mind at that time. I did have a couple ideas of what I wanted to do. I had 3 opponents for Logan. It was either going to be Randy, LA Knight, just because I wanted to kind of see the promo battles between the two. I think that would be pretty entertaining. And honestly, if I were to have LA Knight against Logan Paul, I would probably have LA Knight become the US champion. But I decided to do something else with LA Knight. He's in Night 2, and we'll talk about him later. The second person I had in mind was Sheamus. I think Sheamus versus Logan Paul would kind of be a fun match where Logan hasn't really taken on people that have been physical. You can make an argument for Kevin Owens, but I would say Kevin Owens and Sheamus, they're very similar, but they're also different in my opinion. I would say Sheamus is definitely more of a physical wrestler, where he is just going to beat the dog shit out of you. And I think that would make for a fun match where people would be like, Sheamus is going to kill Logan Paul. He's going to batter him. I would have Logan Paul win there, but I think that would be a fun match to have. But I'm like, I don't know if it's big enough for WrestleMania. And then I ended up putting Sheamus in the Raw vs. SmackDown match. And I was looking at the roster, and I'm like, oh shit, Randy. We got to get a big match for Randy. He's a big single star. He's got to have a big match at WrestleMania. And I was looking at the whole roster of SmackDown and Raw, and there was only one person that I really saw him having a match with, and that was like Karrion Kross. Like, for me, I would want Randy to have like a fresh matchup going into WrestleMania, I wouldn't want him to have another match with AJ at WrestleMania. We already did that. I wouldn't want him to face Rollins at WrestleMania. Already did that. And I thought about putting him against Karrion Kross here, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have Karrion Kross do something else, and I'm going to try and find another opponent for Randy. And then I'm like, I don't have an opponent for Logan. I don't have an opponent for Orton. What if I just kind of throw them against each other? And then the wheels started to turn in my head where I'm like, I think this could actually be a fun story. And the story, I did write one out, would be one day Logan's in the ring just kind of bragging about being the US champion, being like the youngest superstar to really make a name for himself. He's a huge celebrity, blah, 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 blah. And then I would have Orton come out and be like, Logan, I see a lot of myself in you. We were both young. We did a lot of dumb shit. But I had a bunch of people that took me under their wing. He would mention like Evolution, like Ric Flair and Triple H, mentoring him and like really setting him on the proper path to succeed and achieve his true potential. And basically Orton would be like, I want to be your Triple H and your Ric Flair. I want to guide you. Because, Logan is so full of himself, it will eventually like consume him and be the downfall of his career in WWE. And basically Logan would just be like, no, I don't need you. Look at what I've done. just basically saying, you know, Orton, thank you, but no thank you. I don't need you. You know, I think I'm doing pretty well. You know, you're just kind of like a jealous veteran. You know, you kind of want to latch yourself onto me just so you can have a career resurgence. And, you know, I'm not going to let that happen. And then basically Orton would be like, all right, I know you're good. You're good in the ring. I've seen your matches, but let's see how good you really are. Let's go one-on-one at WrestleMania. Throw up the U.S. title. Put it on the line. I've won it at WrestleMania before. I think he won it at WrestleMania before. I know he's a former U.S. champion. I don't remember. I know there was a 4-way for the U.S. title at WrestleMania involving him. I don't remember if he defended it there or won it there. But basically, just Randy being like, hey, you got a big mouth. I'm going to shut it up. Old school versus new school kind of thing. And that would be the story for that. I would have Logan win. I would have him defeat Randy Orton. And then maybe even shake hands after the match where, you know, Logan really earned Orton's respect. And then maybe you can have Logan just be like, yeah, I'm not shaking your hand. I'm better than this. And then maybe you could continue the feud. But for WrestleMania, one-on-one match, I would have Logan win and defend his title. Next match we got for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles in a 3-way tag team match. It is going to be Asuka and Kairi Sane from Damage Control defending their titles against Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark, and the third team of Michin and Naomi. Kind of a simple story for this one. Like I said, I wanted to have all the titles defended. There wasn't really one specific contender for the women's tag titles that I thought would really justify having a match here. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the top Raw's women's tag team. I'm going to take the top SmackDown women's tag team. And they're both going to fight for the World Tag Team, or the women's tag team titles at WrestleMania. So Shayna and Zoey, obviously from Raw. And then for SmackDown, because I'm going to have the 5-on-5 Raw vs. SmackDown match, I was kind of in a tight spot because I'm like, who should I save for that 5-on-5 match, and who would I put in this tag team match? Now, immediately, I was going to do like Isla Dawn and Alba Fire because, you know, they're like the most legitimate tag team on SmackDown in the women's division. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think anyone would care to see them at WrestleMania. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just not going to put them in the match. And I was kind of seeing like who I could throw together to be a credible tag team. And I thought of the team of Michin and Naomi. And I was like, you know what? I think that would be a fun women's tag team. I would honestly love to see them. So I was like, you know what? That's going to be my SmackDown women's team. So yeah, it would be a 3-way for the women's tag titles. And I haven't picked a winner. I know I would either want Zoey and Shayna, or either Damage Control to retain or Zoey and Shayna to win. I would probably go Shayna and Zoey to win. I feel like they're a really credible, badass tag team. Like, to me, they're the most believable team. They can kick anyone's ass, men or women. You know, they're physically intimidating. You know, Shayna, she's got the MMA background. I'm not sure if Zoey has a combat sports background. I don't know if she does, but she carries herself like she does. And she's just kind of scary and intimidating, similar to Shayna. So, yeah, just kind of, I think they would probably be the team that I would go with. So I'm going to make an executive decision here. We're going to have new Raw Women's Tag Team Champions, and it would be the team of Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark. And then maybe you can even build up to a Michin and Naomi tag team match. I think that would be fun. So this next match that we're going to talk about is a bit of an interesting one because it can't happen anymore. Now, at the time that I wrote out this pay-per-view, this person had not signed with AEW. And I was like, you know what? He's a free agent. I'm going to have him in WWE, and I would actually push him as a pretty big star, and the person I am talking about is Drew McIntyre taking on, in a one-on-one match, it would be the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. Now again, I know this match can't happen. Remember, fantasy booking, and I did write this before he signed with AEW, and the story would go, you have Drew McIntyre come out and say, hey, all the people I've been feuding with, they're out injured. Punk, out injured. Rollins out injured, and he's very upset that he doesn't get to have his big WrestleMania moment. He starts calling himself the best in the world, that he took out both of them. He's like, I should be winning the world title at WrestleMania. It's my moment. Stuff along those lines. And what I would do is on the last Raw before WrestleMania, I would have Drew in the ring cutting a promo, just being disgruntled, talking about some of the stuff I just mentioned. The lights would go out, and then you hear the noise of the coin flip, and on the screen you would see like a digital coin. I would have it spin really fast, and then eventually it would kind of fall over after it was done spinning, and then the camera kind of pans to it, and we see Okada's face on the coin. Crowd goes crazy because they know who Okada is. And basically Okada would appear on the screen and cut a promo just saying like, hey, Drew, you call yourself the best in the world. WWE, this is where the best talent is. I'm coming to WWE. I'm coming to WrestleMania. And I want you at WrestleMania. And this would lead to a one-on-one match between the two. And honestly, I would really, really like to see this match. These are two physical guys of the same stature. Okada's a taller guy. Drew's a really big guy. I think this would be a really, really fun matchup to watch. I would definitely have Okada win at WrestleMania. You're bringing him in as a big superstar. He's definitely going to get pushed. This will be one of the things I talk about in my post-Mania thing where I'll talk about it then. I don't want to talk about it now because it'll kind of spoil some of the stuff that I have set up. So I'll talk about it after. But yeah, Okada in WWE, big WrestleMania match against Drew, and he would win his debut match. Little side note on Okada, because I know people are going to say, this match can't happen. He's in AEW. I understand that. I wrote this before he signed with AEW, where it was kind of being teased like he could go to WWE. Like it's most likely he's going to end up in AEW, but there's a chance that he goes to WWE. And it was kind of exciting for a little bit where it's like, oh shit, where's he actually going to appear? AEW is most likely, but what if he does go to WWE? Holy shit, WWE's on fire. Does he go there? Does he want to work the more dates? Or does he want to go to AEW? Still make good money, but work a less hectic schedule and gets to chill with his friends every week. Now, obviously, he went with the latter, whatever's best for him and his family, but I would have really liked to see him in WWE. But anyways, just a little side note on Okada in AEW. I'm going to be honest, when they first brought him in and he was going to side with the elites, and it's like, what the fuck? And it's like, he's going to be a heel? What? Like, this is so weird. You're taking the biggest star from Japan in the last 10, 15 years, and you're going to immediately make him, he's a huge babyface. You're going to come in and make him a heel? Like, what? That's crazy. I will say, the more it's played out over the past few weeks, I would have to say I actually really like the decision to make him a heel. I think he's been an awesome heel. I like him siding with the Young Bucks. They're the new elite. I'm excited for when Kenny comes back, when Hangman comes back. A lot of potential mix-up there. But, yeah, I had my reservations with Okada, doing that kind of stuff. But I got to say, it's been pretty positive. I will say there was a bit of a negative with him signing with AEW, where with AEW and a lot of the people that they sign, they come in with a lot of fanfare, and then it immediately kind of fizzles out. And something with Okada that's kind of interesting is, I talked about how he's a big star, or was a big star in Japan. But if you really look at the past few weeks of AEW, so at Revolution, we had the official kind of debut of Will Ospreay as a full-time member of the AEW roster. That's a very big pickup for AEW as well. And then, the following Dynamite, a couple days later, you have the debut of Okada, which is like, holy shit. And then after that, you start hyping up, the big business or boss, whatever the fuck it was called, big Boston business, whatever it is. And then obviously it leads to Mercedes Moné. But basically, all that to say is AEW, I would say, has a signing problem where they just have so many fucking guys and girls, but specifically guys. There are so many people on the roster that they are not doing anything with, that they need to release, but they just keep on signing more fucking people, and it's like, holy shit. Now, Okada is a special person, but if you look at the past few signings, Will Ospreay, Okada, Mercedes Moné, I'm even going to throw in another one that's not recent, but kind of fits with all this, Jay White, where you're signing all these guys from Japan, and then just not really doing anything with them. Jay White, he's stuck in kind of a hellish feud with the you know, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang stuff. Will Ospreay, he's being set up for success. But basically the whole, I feel like I'm kind of rambling. The whole thing is you sign these people, you bring them in, and then they kind of just get lost in the shuffle because your roster is so fucking bloated. You don't need to sign every great wrestler that comes across. You can pass on some. Now, a guy like a Will Ospreay or Okada, where they're big stars, and obviously Tony's a big fan of Japanese wrestling, so he sees, not only does he see like, oh, those are big stars for my company, he's also just like a fan of those guys, so he wants to sign them. But the thing, if everyone's special, no one's special. That's kind of the moral of the story. That's what I'm trying to get to. Where, again, Will Ospreay debuts at Revolution. On Dynamite, you have the debut of Okada, then you kind of forget about Will Ospreay. Then Okada debuts, then you start hyping up the debut of somebody at Big Business. So then people start to forget about Okada. And I would say the train from Mercedes Moné has already kind of gone off the rails, at least from the stuff that I've seen and kind of read. So, just AEW needs a little bit of a restructuring going on with their roster. Let go of some people. You got too many names. You don't need to sign every goddamn person. Anyways, moving on to the next match. Next match, I would have something similar to what we saw on the actual WrestleMania card, and it would be the final testament of Karrion, Kross, AOP, and Scarlett taking on the pride of Bobby Lashley, the Street Profits, and B-Fab. And this would be in an Extreme Rules match. So basically it would be the same thing as what WWE has, but I would involve the women. I know they're probably not the greatest wrestlers, but I think it would be a good spotlight for the women, and we can see them do crazy stuff, going on tacks, tables, kendo sticks. Like, I think it'd just be like fun chaos. And that's what this match would really be. Just fun, chaos, Extreme Rules. Fans are going to be chanting EC dub. Go full on debauchery with it. Anything that's not nailed down, use it in the match. Kitchen sink. I would say not glass and not a... well, stapler's fine. I don't mind a stapler spot every once in a while. But cheese grater. Cheese grater and glass. Those are two things I'm not a big fan of seeing. I would say use everything except those two things. And maybe fire. Don't use fire. I don't think this match needs fire. But yeah, just full on hardcore fest. I would even probably have Lashley like spear Scarlett through a table or something like that. Like go full ECW with it. Because, you know, you want to bring the spirit of ECW. And something that was cool about the ECW was the women were involved in a lot of stuff with the men. You know, a lot of the guys had managers. Francine took a lot of cool spots and crazy spots. Same with Beulah McGillicuddy. Jazz, Dawn Marie, they would get involved a lot. So yeah, the one thing I would change with this one is just incorporate the women, B-Fab and Scarlett. Even though it might be horrendous, I would want to give them a spotlight of sorts. So yeah, I would change it to a 8-person tag team match. And then last but not least, my main event for night 1 of WrestleMania 40 is a match that we talked about earlier, and it's the one that makes sense. It would be Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Title. Two biggest Raw women's wrestlers go on a one-on-one. Who's going to be the better of the two? I'm going to have Becky win here. I'm going to have her defeat Rhea Ripley. Like I was talking about when I was doing my predictions, I just feel like Rhea's gotten a little bit stale because she's kind of ran through the whole women's division. So to kind of have her start over again, I wouldn't say start from the bottom and then like beat everybody, but just not have the women's title. Actually, I would have them feud quite a bit for the next couple months. I would have them trade the title back and forth a little bit where, you know, the whole storyline would be they're the two best. On any given night, either one could win. You know, if they have 10 matches, it's going to be 50-50. One wins 5, the other wins 5. So we'll talk more about Rhea and Becky because they're in my post-Mania plans. But yeah, I would have Becky win the Raw, or whatever the fuck the title's called, the Women's World Title. I would have her win in the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. Then we got WrestleMania Night 2, and there's a couple matches on here I would like to see. One in particular, we'll get to it, but for the start of WrestleMania 40, Night 2, I would actually start with a segment, which I know might not be popular, and this whole thing I'm about to mention, people probably wouldn't be crazy about, but I think it would get a pretty good reaction. Basically, to start off Night 2, I would have Seth Rollins come out, cut a promo, and says, wow, you know, what a WrestleMania Night 1 we had, what a great show, all the matches were awesome, and it was capped off by his wife in the main event of WrestleMania, winning the Women's World Title, and he's so proud of her, right? And I'll say for this scenario of my booking, I would keep Rollins out of action. because he is still injured. I believe he still has a leg injury of sorts that he's still dealing with. I would have him pretty much off of TVs. Like, I would have him make some appearances, cut promos, but in terms of wrestling leading up to Mania, nothing. Rollins would come out and cut a promo and just be like, you know, I'm the world champion and I can't even defend the title at the biggest show of the year. I want to do it, but the medical staff won't, you know, I'm not cleared to compete. And then he's just like, you know what? I don't care if I'm not cleared to compete. Now, obviously, there would be big fluff over this where he's like, what the fuck? The doctor should step in. He should be able to compete, blah, 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 blah. This is all wrestling stuff. It doesn't really matter what doctors say. So basically, he would just be like, you know what? Fuck what the doctor says. I'm going to wrestle anyways. I'm not going to let this injury stop me. I'm defending my world title at WrestleMania. I'm defending it right now, and I'm going to issue an open challenge. Whoever walks out here is going to be getting a world title match, and that would be the start to the show. I would have none other than Dominic Mysterio come out and accept the challenge. I would love to see that reaction where he's the one to accept it and the crowd just absolutely boos the ever-loving hell out of him. Dominic comes out, accepts the challenge, and basically says, hey, his mommy lost her world title last night at WrestleMania. Judgment Day lost their Raw Tag Team titles at night 1, 2, but tonight he is going to win his first world title at WrestleMania, and he's going to do it for his mommy. So that's the start of the show. One-on-one match, Seth Rollins, Dominic Mysterio, World Heavyweight title match. I don't think this has to be a long match. I think like 10 minutes would be like the perfect amount of time. I think they would have a fun, exciting bout in that time. And then near the end of the match, you'd have Rhea Ripley come out to watch the match and would try and, you know, give Dom the world title to hit Seth Rollins. Becky would come out, make the save. They start brawling on the outside. Dom gets distracted by this, eats a curb stomp. Boom, he gets beat. After the match, I would have JD, Baszler, and Priest all come out and attack Seth and attack Becky. Obviously, the guys wouldn't attack Becky, but Rhea would be attacking Becky. And I'd probably have some legends come out and make the save. Maybe someone like Hogan, Austin, you know, some of those big legends. Because it is WrestleMania, I do want to incorporate like legends getting involved here. So I'd probably bring out like an Austin or Hogan or maybe Undertaker, Kane, somebody along those lines to come out and help Rollins. This would kind of lead into the next match because Baszler and Priest are already out there, so this would lead to the next match, which would be a four-way for the SmackDown World Tag Team titles against the teams of Pretty Deadly, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, and Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Similar story to the Raw Tag Team title match. This one's going to have less of a story though, because with the Raw one you have, you know, the natural feud between Awesome Truth and Judgment Day. With this one, it's kind of just thrown together, you know, you just have everyone win qualifying matches. Pretty Deadly beats Legado del Fantasma, or LWO. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller beat the Street Profits or something. Actually, speaking of Street Profits, I was thinking about adding them to this match. I was going to have that match on night 1 be a qualifying match where like the winning team would qualify for this SmackDown Tag Team title match. But I'm like, you know what? The Street Profits and AOP, they're already in a big match at WrestleMania. Let's use this opportunity to bring in another team from SmackDown. And I had Pretty Deadly. That was the team that replaced them. When I wrote this out originally, I did have Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne because they are like, I don't want to say the biggest babyface tag team on SmackDown because I would say the Street Profits, but in terms of the second biggest babyface tag team would definitely be Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. And then I would also have the team of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And speaking of, I would actually have them win. I actually really like the team of Grayson and Austin. I like their team name, A-Town Down Under. It works perfectly. I think they really complement each other well, where I wouldn't say Austin Theory is horrible on the mic, but I would say he's definitely not great. I would say Grayson Waller, great on the mic, not so good in the ring. I would say he's good, not great. And I think they really just complement each other well. You know, they're young, arrogant assholes. They have very punchable faces. Shout out to Kevin Owens. And I really like the pairing of these two guys, and I would actually have them become the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Have them run roughshod over the SmackDown Tag Team division, have feuds with like Street Profits, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, LWO, whoever else you want to kind of throw in there. But yeah, I would actually give them a decent SmackDown Tag Team title run. Next match, we got a big one-on-one match. This was another match that I kind of talked about earlier, where here I would have have Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar. Big one-on-one match. Lucha Star of the future versus Lucha Star of the past. Can Santos defeat Rey and kind of build his own legacy? For me, I would build it up to a big one-on-one match at WrestleMania. I think that's the better move, in my opinion. I will say originally I did have another match in mind. I was going to do something similar to what I did on night one with Final Testament and the Pride, where I would do like LWO versus Legado del Fantasma. So it'd be like Santos Escobar, Humberto, and Angel, and Elektra taking on Rey, and then two people, maybe Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, maybe get Carlito involved in there. But then you would have Selena Vega as well to kind of combat Elektra Lopez, I believe her name is. And I was like, you know what? I have a match similar to this on night one. I don't really have a lot of big one-on-one matches on my WrestleMania shows. There's a bunch of like clusterfuck matches, tag team title matches, the Raw and SmackDown one. Plus you got Raw vs. SmackDown, men's and women's. Those are 10-man tags right there. You know, it's a bit of a cluster. So I'm like, you know what? I just want a nice one-on-one match here. I think they could have a killer match. And that's what I ended up going with, Santos and Rey. And as far as a winner, I would probably go with Santos. I would actually try and build him up, give him a nice little decent push. You know, he's got the group, he's got the girl. I think you can continue the feud between him and LWO. I think he needs, you know, a big victory, and I would have him win here at WrestleMania against Rey Mysterio. Next, we got the 5-on-5 Raw vs. SmackDown women's match, and for here, we got Team Raw, which is going to consist of Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, Natalya, Ivy Nile, and Chelsea Green, taking on the SmackDown tag team of Bianca Belair, Selena Vega, Tiffany Stratton, Dakota Kai, and Jade Cargill. I think these teams are pretty stacked. You know, I took the 5 top women from each brand to represent their brand. Obviously, there were some people I couldn't use, like Charlotte, who's out with an injury, Raquel, who's out with some sort of medical issue. Otherwise, I would have put Raquel in the match, and I probably would have put Charlotte as well, but working with the pieces that I had, those would be the women that I would go with, and honestly, I would go with Team SmackDown here. Part of me didn't want to, because I had SmackDown go over in the men's match. So I'm like, oh, you know, if SmackDown beats Raw in the men's match and the women's match, Raw kind of looks a little weak. But I'm like, for the SmackDown men's match, for the story that I wanted to tell, you know, the men gotta win. And then if you just really compare these two teams, I feel like the SmackDown one is far superior than the Raw one, in my opinion. So, yeah, realistically, I would, or you could even go with the Raw team, and then you can kind of build a feud between Jade and Bianca, but then you have Jade here. This is a big match for her. You're not going to have her lose. I'm going to go with the SmackDown women's. I know it's going to look bad for Raw losing the men's and the women's, but I'm going to go with SmackDown here. I'm going to have them pick up the win for the women's team. Next, we got another big one-on-one match. AJ Styles versus LA Knight. You know, all the stuff I talked about earlier kind of applies to this, where, you know, I think LA Knight should be in a big one-on-one match. Like I said, originally I had him potentially against Logan Paul, but of course decided to scrap that. I like their feud. I like what they're doing in WWE, like actually WWE. And yeah, I would have them have a big one-on-one match here, and I would have LA Knight win. You know, I think we need to get LA Knight back on the right track, and I think a big win here against AJ would be the right way to go. So I'm going to go with LA Knight here. This next match is honestly something that I would really, really like to see. It makes so much sense to do that the fact that they're not doing it is pretty upsetting. And the match that I'm talking about is called Meat Mania, or you call it the XL match. I think it just makes so much sense because WrestleMania 40 is, you know, it's the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, whatever, that's not important. But 40 in Roman numerals is XL. It's extra large. And this is an extra large WrestleMania, and I think we need to have an extra large match, and that would be this match here, which I would dub Meat Mania, and it would be Gunther defending his Intercontinental title against 5 opponents. It would be Otis Kross, Bronson Reed, Ivar, Omos, and Braun Strowman. We're taking all the super heavyweights in the WWE. We're throwing them all in one match. We're going to get Big E on commentary. We're going to have this match sponsored by Slim Jim. Snap into a Slim Jim. For those of you who don't know, Slim Jim is a popular snack, which is basically a meat stick. I think it's like a jerky. I don't know. I have never had one. But basically, it's just like a long thing of meat. And I would have this match at WrestleMania. I think it would be a lot of fun. You got a lot of combustible elements. You got all the big dudes. You got Omos. You got Strowman. You got Ivar, Bronson Reed, Otis, Gunther. I would actually build this up as like, Gunther might be in trouble. He might lose the Intercontinental title here. He's got so many people to contend with. And, you know, speaking of Gunther, I was trying to think of like a big match for him to have at WrestleMania. I was originally thinking Braun Strowman, like a one-on-one match between him and Gunther for the Intercontinental title, but I went on Cage Match and I looked up if they ever had a match against each other, and they did have a match. They had a match on SmackDown, I think it was like early 2003, something along those lines, and it was a match for the Intercontinental title, and I was like, you know what? Let's scrap that. There wasn't really anyone that was that really stood above the rest of the names. So I was like, you know what? How about instead of having one opponent, we have 5 opponents. You know, we really jeopardized Gunther's reign. He's been the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion ever, but now he's got 5 juggernauts in front of him. Is he going to be able to survive and retain his title? I would say yes. I would have him retain here. There is one thing that kind of would make this match not possible, and it would be Braun Strowman, because I know he's out with a neck injury. He had some sort of neck surgery a while ago, but I think it's been long enough to where he's healed. So that's why I threw him in this match, because usually I like to abide by whoever's injured. I don't want to use them, even though it is fantasy booking. I like to have certain guidelines, and if there's people that are injured, I don't want to include them because I want to work with the pieces that are available. And I think Strowman, like I said, I think he's been out long enough. He's been out for over a year, recovering his neck, and I think this would be a fun match to come out to. Just see large dudes just going at it, just meat on meat, just Gunther chopping everybody. You can have Strowman and Omos just tossing everybody. At one point, you can have like Bronson Reed and Otis go for like splashes off the top rope, and then you have the camera shake like, ooh shit, there's a lot of commotion going on in the ring. The fact that this match is not happening is so disappointing. I would have loved to have seen it, and again, just makes so much sense. But yeah, let's not harp on that. Gunther retaining his Intercontinental title against all these people in the first ever Meat Mania match. First and maybe only Meat Mania match. I would even kind of tease like a feud between Big E and Gunther. Like after the match, Big E would come and maybe interview Gunther and just be like, wow, Gunther, you know, you went through the 5 biggest dudes on the roster in Meat Mania, meat slapping meat, you know, just be Big E just going crazy on the mic, just talking about how Gunther, he's, you know, such a dominant Intercontinental Champion, and then Gunther would just kind of disrespect Big E, like, you know, the ring is sacred, get the hell out of my ring. What are you talking about, all this meat and stuff? This ring is sacred. What are you talking about meat? Why are there Slim Jims like falling out of the sky, covering my ring, going crazy with it? And I would kind of have Big E and Gunther do a little bit of a stare down to end out that segment. Now, Big E's another one, broke his neck. I don't know if he's ever going to come back. You know, he broke his neck. He didn't have surgery, I believe. I think he just let it heal naturally. I could be wrong on that. I'm speaking like I know the facts. I don't know all the facts. But he has been out for quite some time, so maybe he could potentially be making a comeback sooner or later. And then, you know, his first feud would be against Gunther for the Intercontinental title. I think that would be pretty fun. I would actually really like to see that match, in my opinion. I would like to see it, but I'd probably be wincing the whole time. Like when I watch Christian or Bryan Danielson or Edge wrestle, and you know their history of like head and neck injuries. Any move that they take that looks crazy, you're like, oh my god, he's dead. His career's over. Why did he come back? What the fuck? I feel like I would have the same reactions to Big E, where it'd just be like, oh my god, Gunther just killed him with that lariat. Oh my god, Gunther just killed him with that powerbomb. Big E, get the fuck out of the ring. So yeah, I don't know if Big E would be, or I don't know if Gunther would be the best opponent for Big E to come back to, but it would be, if he is healed, it's a match I would like to see. Next match, we got a match, again, we talked about earlier, Io Sky versus Bayley for the women's title. There's nothing I'm going to say now that I didn't say then. This is the one that kind of makes the most sense in terms of the SmackDown women's division, and I'm going to go with Bayley to win and become the new women's world, or not women's world champion, that's the Raw title, just the women's champion. And then last but not least, the match to end all matches, the biggest main event that I have for both nights of WrestleMania. It's going to be Cody Rhodes taking on Roman Reigns for the Universal title with special guest referee, The Rock. So, if I was in control of this whole feud and I was booking the show, I would have The Rock be the special guest referee. I would tease tension between The Rock and Roman, where Roman doesn't really trust Rock, but Rock's like, you know what? I'm going to call this straight down the middle. You don't have anything to worry about. I'm going to be fair and impartial, and may the best man win. And obviously, I talked about it earlier, I would have Cody win and become the new Universal Champion. Obviously, is Rock going to call it straight down the middle? Yes and no. I would say there would definitely be a point in the match where he definitely eats a spear. And I would say there would be a bit of a confrontation between The Rock and Roman. I wouldn't want Rock to physically touch Roman, like give him a rock bottom or people's elbow or anything like that, because I feel like that would taint Cody's win. I would want him to win without the interference of The Rock. Like, you can have Roman and Rock have an interaction, but I wouldn't have Rock physically do anything to Roman. But yeah, have Rock eat a spear near the end of the match. They're going back and forth. Cody hits, Crossroads, that's the name of his finisher. They're probably going to kick out of each other's finishers like 100 different times. But eventually I would have Cody win and become the new Universal Champion. And then obviously there would be a setup for a future Rock versus Roman match, which I would set up for SummerSlam. Would I save it for next year WrestleMania? It would be a big match for next year's WrestleMania, but I don't think I would save it for then. I think I would do it at SummerSlam. I think that would be one of my big matches for the show. And then maybe you can do a rematch at WrestleMania, where you have, let's say Rock wins at SummerSlam, then you have Roman win at WrestleMania, and then eventually they have the third match, wherever that might be. Something along those lines. But yeah, I would definitely, most definitely have Cody win and walk out the Universal Champion. So that is my cards for WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. I think I put together some pretty good shows. If you want to see what the card looks like, I will also put it in the description so you can, I'm talking about these matches, but if you want to physically see what they are and read the names and stuff, I'll have it in the description. You can check it out there. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about some post-Mania stuff that I would set up. So the first big thing I would have for Raw would be, I would have Becky and Seth come out and just talk about what a big night it was for both of them. Rollins, against all the adversity and the injury, he defended his world title, beat Dominic Mysterio. Becky Lynch, she won the world title against Rhea Ripley, main evented night 1 of WrestleMania. And basically just kind of talk about how they're like a power couple, right? Boom, they get interrupted by Judgment Day, specifically Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley, saying they're the real power couple in WWE, and they should have a match to prove it. So that would set up the main events for post-Mania Raw. It would be Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley. Not sure who I would have go over. It's not really important to the story here. After the match, Judgment Day attacks Rollins, attacks Becky, who comes out, Damian Priest cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase, beats Seth Rollins, becomes the new world champion. Judgment Day going from having a really bad weekend where they lost both sets of tag titles, Rhea lost the women's title, Dominic lost a world title match, they have recouped, and Damian Priest would be your world champion. That would be my post-match angle for Raw. That would be one of the big things that I would set up. And what I would do is I would set up a match for WrestleMania Backlash. That's the following pay-per-view after WrestleMania. And I would build up a match between Seth Rollins and Becky versus Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley in a mixed tag team match. I would reuse something that they did a couple years ago. I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was Seth Rollins and Becky versus Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans. They had some match at a pay-per-view pay-per-view. And I would kind of do something similar here, where I would have a winner-takes-all match. So for Seth and Becky, you have Becky as the women's champion, and then on the other team, the Judgment Day, you have Priest as the world champion. And so whoever wins, Seth will become the world champion, and then Becky will retain the women's champion, or Priest retains his world title, and then Rhea would become the women's champion. And what I would do is I would have Judgment Day win at WrestleMania Backlash. I know a lot of people would probably not like that, where Becky would have like a 1-month title reign and then lose it back to Rhea. But something that I mentioned earlier, where if they have 10 matches, any given day, either one could win. I'm not a fan of title changes happening so fast, but I think in the right situation it makes sense, especially when you have two people who are, at the top of their game, the two top stars in that division. You can kind of pass the title back and forth a little bit, and I don't think it would devalue the title, and that's something I would do here. So yeah, Becky wins the title at WrestleMania and then loses it at WrestleMania Backlash to Rhea Ripley. And I would have Seth go out, have surgery, recover from the knee injury, so he would be out a little bit, and then I would build up to a match at maybe for a knee injury, I would say at least 6 months. He'd be out for 6 months, so he would miss SummerSlam. So maybe for Survivor Series, we'd have the big rematch, Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins for the world title. That's if Damian Priest is still world champion. I don't know if I'd have him keep it that long. I didn't really think of that far ahead, but definitely post-Mania, I would have him cash in his briefcase and win the world title. And honestly, I can see that actually happening at the Raw after WrestleMania. I think that there's a very, very, very high chance that that happens. And then the other thing that I would do with Raw that would be kind of significant would be I would call some people up. Because usually after post-WrestleMania, we have like returns and debuts and stuff. And someone that I would call up from NXT to Raw would be the family. Tony D'Angelo and his family. I would bring all of them up. Tony D'Angelo, Channing, Lorenzo, Luca Cristofino, and Adriana Rizzo. I'd bring all 4 of them up to Raw, with the idea being, with Damian Priest going from the tag title division to the world title division, Raw kind of loses a tag team. I mean, you can still have a tag team from Judgment Day being like, you can have JD McDonough and Balor, you can have JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio, you can have Dom and Finn, you can do some sort of variation, but in terms of Damian being in a tag team, he's busy doing world title stuff. So I would have the family come up. They would be kind of your middle heel faction. You have the Judgment Day, they're the main heel faction, and then you'd have the family be like the mid-card kind of faction. And I would push Tony D'Angelo as like high mid-card stuff. I would start him from like mid-card, then build him up. But he's somebody I would definitely push, and then you can have Channing and Luca Cristofino. They can be a tag team. Then you can have Adriana Rizzo. She can go do stuff in the women's division. I think that would be a fun team to call up for Raw. I think they would add quite a bit. And then plus with Seth going for surgery, Punk again being out with an injury, Cody winning the Universal title, Raw is kind of losing a lot of star power. And I don't know if this is going to happen, but something that I wrote out for me is because I have Cody winning the world title, or the Universal title at WrestleMania, I would have him drafted to SmackDown. I think it only makes sense. Keep the world title on Raw, Universal title on SmackDown. Each brand has their own champion, so it makes even more sense to bring up more talent from NXT, that being the family, to kind of fill the void of some of the missing stars from Raw. And then that's also why I brought Okada to Raw, because he would be my top babyface while Rollins is out, Punk's out, Cody's on SmackDown. That's three huge stars Raw loses. So I would put Okada there, and he would be one of my top guys. So that would be some stuff I do for Raw. And then for SmackDown, I would have Roman go away for a little bit, have him go to his island of relevancy. Maybe you can have him cut promos and stuff. Cut promos on The Rock, just being like, you betrayed me, you let down our family, I'm the head of the table. It would be a slow build between Roman and Rock, just promos every so often on SmackDown. But yeah, so Roman goes away, Cody comes in, big baby face on SmackDown, and he's the new champion now. And honestly, for his first feud, I would have him feud with Solo Sikoa. I think that's the perfect first natural feud for him. Solo Sikoa coming off a big win at WrestleMania night 1 with the SmackDown vs. Raw men's match, Paul Heyman would kind of be in the corner of Solo and just be like, you know, Roman's out, he's gone for a little bit, but we have Solo Sikoa. He is going to be, you know, that head of the bloodline now. And honestly, something that I would probably do is bring in Jacob Fatu and put him in with the bloodline. While Roman's out, Solo and Jimmy, they're holding down the bloodline, but hey, let's get some new blood in the bloodline. And yeah, I would bring in Jacob Fatu to SmackDown. I think that would be a huge one. I would really like to see WWE sign him. I know he has a criminal history, but obviously the guy has turned his life around and, you know, is committed to wrestling. And I would like to see WWE give him a chance, whether it be short-term or long-term. If I was in charge, I'd be like, you know what, Jacob, you do have a bit of a history. We're going to bring you in for a few months. This is what we have planned out for you. And if it goes well and, you know, you meet your dates and, you know, it does well, you know, ratings, whatever, we'll sign you permanently. If it doesn't work out, hey, we just cut ties with you and we move past. But I would actually bring in Jacob Fatu and add him to the bloodline. He's part of the bloodline, you know, he's related to all those guys. I think it just makes sense. Kind of keeps the bloodline stuff going with it being kind of fresh, you know, adding new pieces. Roman goes away, you bring in Jacob Fatu, bloodline kind of feels fresh again. Push Solo as a top guy, or maybe even push Jacob Fatu as a top guy. Maybe he's the new tribal chief, the temporary tribal chief. Who knows? But for what I have written out, the Jacob Fatu thing, that just popped in my head. But what I actually have written out would be Solo Sikoa feuding with Cody. And that would be Cody's first feud for the world title. And then as far as SmackDown, the other thing that I have written down would be a feud between Braun Breaker and Sheamus. I don't remember if I mentioned it in the Raw vs. SmackDown men's match, but at one point Braun would accidentally spear Sheamus, and that would lead to his elimination, and then that would lead to this feud where it would just be two physical guys just beating the dog shit out of each other. And honestly, I would actually really like to see this match. I'm a big fan of Braun Breaker. I don't know why they had him debut like just in the middle of WrestleMania season. I thought that was really stupid because he's just going to get lost in the sauce. You know, there's so many other moving parts that they have to focus on leading into WrestleMania that them just kind of bringing him in just to bring him in just was really stupid. I think they should have waited for after WrestleMania because they really haven't done anything with him on SmackDown. But if I was in charge, I would actually, you know, push him and use him and build him up because, like I said, I see him as a future star. And like I talked about, I would build up potentially for WrestleMania 41, Braun Breaker, Solo Sikoa, big one-on-one match. You know, the future of WWE. That's what I would build the match as. So, yeah, a couple interesting things for post-Mania. I didn't write out a bunch of different things. Those are just a couple of ideas that I had that I thought made the most sense. A couple different directions for, like, the world title and some of, like, the mid-card feuds. So, yeah, just some stuff that came to mind that I thought was interesting and stuff that I would actually like to see. That's also part of me booking this stuff is like, I would actually really like to see this. And I think it all makes sense. That's what I try and do when I do these booking type videos. I want it all to make sense. And I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know in the comments section. Let me know what you think of my WrestleManias, Night 1 and Night 2 for WrestleMania 40. Let me know what you think of my post-Mania stuff. Some of the ideas I had. The comment section is free. Comment as many times as you like. Whatever you want to comment, go nuts. Yeah, that is going to be it for this video. This how I would book WrestleMania 40 and my predictions. This was a bit of a long one. I'm kind of losing my voice. I definitely needed to drink like some water. I finished my water. I needed to get another bottle, but yeah, my voice is kind of running low. So definitely going to be wrapping it up here. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it. You know, I like doing the wrestling stuff from time to time. Not as consistent as I did before, because I like wrestling. I would even say I love it, but not as much as I used to. But I enjoy coming back time to time to do some videos and kind of shoot the shit on some wrestling. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay. That's actually something I wanted to mention at the beginning. This is WWE 2K23. I know some people in the comment section are going to be like, why aren't you playing 2K24? And there's a really good answer to that. It's just I'm not paying full price for a game I'm probably not going to play anytime soon. I actually bought 2K23 just to do this video. So a little bit of a rant here before we end off. So I had 2K22, and that's what I was going to use to have gameplay in the background. And I was absolutely shocked to find out that they shut down the fucking servers for WWE 2K22. How in the fuck are those servers already shut down? That is insane to me. If it was like 2K16, 2K14, that makes sense. Those games are old. Those aren't previous generations. But a game that's like less than like 3 years old, 3, maybe 4 years old at most, the servers are already taken down? That's crazy to me. I couldn't believe it when I saw that, and I was like, I gotta download some shit off Community Creations to do some of these matches, and I wasn't able to do it, so I'm like, fuck, I need... This video almost did not happen, because I'm like, okay, no 2K22, what the fuck am I going to do for gameplay? So I saw 2K23 on sale on Amazon. I ended up ordering it just to do this video, so yeah, enjoy the gameplay. It's actually a pretty sweet deal, not gonna lie. Anything's better than full price, that's why I'm not gonna pay for 2K24. I can't justify spending $90 on a game. That's fucking outrageous to me, so yeah, that's why it's not 2K24 and why it's 2K23. But yeah, the fact they shut down the 2K22 servers, I don't know if the game didn't do well. I really don't know the story behind it, but when I saw that, that was absolutely crazy to me. I couldn't believe a game that new is already getting their servers shut down. But I guess it bombed. I guess it didn't do well. I don't know. I'll do a little bit more research on 2K22, check out some of the reviews, see if it really did bomb. But yeah, when I saw that the servers were shut down, I was like, all right, delete this game. I'm never going to play it again. But yeah, now I have 2K23 when it comes to wrestling games. That's where I'll get my fix in. So I've kind of messed around with it. I messed around with you know, some of the different options, match types and stuff, and it's pretty cool. I know as you're watching some of these matches, you're seeing like the tutorial shit pop up, and I apologize. A lot of these matches I was learning the game as I'm playing, so some of the matches might be a little rough, but yeah, I had fun regardless. So yeah, anyways, little side note there. I'm gonna end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed WrestleMania weekend. Again, there's a lot of good wrestling out there. If you don't like WWE, there's other alternatives there. If you like the other alternatives, you don't have to shit on another one. Just watch what you like. Watch it all. There's so much good shit out there. We live in the golden age of wrestling right now. We have awesome matches. Like I said, we have wrestling 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. That's insane. So just enjoy it. Don't take it for granted. Because guess what? If AEW shuts down for whatever reason, they fold, and WWE's the only show in town, I think the wrestling world would definitely suffer. And then people are really going to want another alternative and be like, I don't like WWE, and I want to watch wrestling, but WWE's the only show in town. Man, I wish AEW was still around. So don't take it for granted. Enjoy it while it's here, and hopefully everyone is successful in the world of wrestling, is fruitful, and everyone can succeed in it. Competition brings the best out of everybody. So yeah, enjoy it. Let me know what you're looking forward to on WrestleMania. Let me know what you thought of my WrestleMania cards. And yeah, that is going to be it for me. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time. And until then, guys, peace out.